Okay, so thank you again, everyone, for joining. For the first of Hacemos' four-part Poder Innovador series, Avanzando, Inventando, Latino Contributions in History. My name is Cristina Cantero. I'm a proud member of Hacemos, Hispanic Heritage Month, and High Tech Day Committee member, and I am a seller in the Mid-Markets Acquisition Southeast region. So before we get started, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our moderator for today's panel, author and co-founder of Afro Presencia, Karen Juanita Carrillo. So Karen, feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Christina. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. We're very excited for the start of Hispanic Heritage Month and for our series. Um, Today, we are going to be talking about patents and how easy it is to create patents. Not that it doesn't take skill, but that we want to encourage everyone to understand that if you can think of inventing something, if you can discover ways to solve a problem, you can patent your idea. We have two esteemed patent inventors with us today, Professor Tom Tafola, who is an independent researcher and the founder of Tafola Manzana Company. And we have Jaime Braverman, who's a senior program manager with Kimberly Clark. They are both have patents that they will be able to talk to us about, and they're also going to talk about what it's like to be a Latino inventor and who has been inspired by other Latinos who have patented or who have registered patents. Again, I'm sorry, I didn't really introduce myself. My name is Karen Juanita Carrillo. I am a journalist. I've written some books, and I mostly focus on Afro-American and Afro-Latino history and politics. And I've written a lot about some inventors of Hispanic origin. Also, I am also a co-founder of an elementary school in Brooklyn, New York, and one of the reasons I was excited about doing this project is because this is one of the things we do with our students is we teach them about famous inventors, and then we let them understand that they also can create things. So just wanted to start off with asking our panelists if they could speak a little bit about themselves and how they got to this point. Let's start first with Professor Tafola.
Yes, hello, my name is Tom Tafoya, and I currently identify as an entrepreneur and writer, academic researcher. I'm actually not an inventor, although I've worked with inventors extensively since 1987. And the brunt of my work and devotion and passion at the moment is on uncovering the contributions of what I refer to as American Latino inventors in the United States. A little bit more, the company that I founded in 2019 is called the Tafoya Manzano Company, headquartered in Antioch and operating in San Jose, California. Regarding my business background, I first began working in Silicon Valley in 1980 as an electromechanical designer. I rose to the level of being a senior designer, and I continued to work in Silicon Valley in various high-tech companies in a wide range of technical areas until 2009. I've also been a university instructor from 1990 to the present. I'm still teaching in various MBA programs mostly at the graduate level. I also, in that respect, as an academic, spent time with the National Hispanic University when it existed. A few people may know of that. I worked with them from about 1992 to 2015 when they closed. There's only two more items. In 2018, I received a fellowship, an academic fellowship to study at the the Smithsonian Institution Lemelson Center for the Study of Invention and Innovation. And that pretty much rounds it out. So thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Hi, okay, thank you. Now if we can hear from Jaime Braverman.
Yeah, let me just share, one slide that probably will summarize a little bit about me. So my name is Jaime Braverman. I'm originally from Mexico. I've been working for Kimberly-Clark Corporation for the past 31 years. So probably you might not know who is Kimberly-Clark, but you can recognize our brands, which are used everywhere, every single day by every single human being almost. So I've been in research and development all these 31 years in different positions. And because that, I have been able to patent 29 different innovations. Although in order to create a patent, you start with an invention disclosure. So I have about 90 invention disclosures that possibly they can become also new patents. With that, that has helped me to compete in different engineering contests. And I have been fortunately enough to be able to win 5 of the national awards. So one of them is the Sheppy Award, and the other one is the Great Minds of STEM. In addition to that, I was the ERG founder for Kimberly-Clark. Our group is called LAND, the Latin American Network for Diversity. So we founded that group, and I was the chair for a couple of years of that group. And proudly I can say that I have been commercializing between products and materials probably over 60 different applications. And also part of what we do is to try to optimize cost, and I have been able to deliver over $150 million in cost savings. But I think the most important part that I'm very proud of, you can see it here if you recognize a diaper, is if you can see these barriers. I was the one who introduced the material that is currently used on those barriers, which have improved performance in the products about 85%, reducing leakage. And when I was doing this for Kimberly-Clark de Mexico, trying to improve a product. But today, there is no product in the world who doesn't make a diaper without this material. So thank you for the opportunity to invite me to this panel.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, knowing what the two of you have worked on, we wanted to speak a little bit, or have you both speak a little bit about what the process was like for you registering for patents. Obviously, it's not something easy to do. Did you have knowledge of the fact that there had been other Latinos who had registered their ideas? Did that help you at all in terms of your push towards getting a patent? Anyone can start.
If I can start with that, I will say that I was not knowledgeable about Latinos specifically, that they did any patents. But when I started doing a little bit of research for this talk, there were some that I knew about. For example, the color TV was invented by a Mexican. The artificial heart was invented by an Argentinian. So there are a lot of things that Latinos have contributed to the world. The thing is that when you write a patent, it doesn't say your origin unless it comes from a specific country. The majority of these patents, they were patented first in the US and then to the world, which is probably the normal route. And in my case, again, when I started to work for Kimberly-Clark, in research, that's what the way that we do it is we start, investing a lot of money in innovation. And who will think that to put a new innovation, for example, for a new hygienic product in the market, we'll spend probably $3 to $4 million or more. And it might take us 2 or 3 years to do so. So it comes a point in which the question needs to be raised, is there anything here that we need to protect that can block our competitors to not follow us and be the first in market with that innovation? So that's something that we do every single day with every project that we do. And as soon as you have that innovation, for sure, you need to start working towards understanding what is the prior art. That might imply your innovation and see if there is something novel that you want to just pursue as a patent.
Mr. Tafoya, do you have any
Yes, I first began working in the patent area in 1987 in this Stanford Industrial Park in Silicon Valley in a licensing group for data services with a company called Dialogue Information Services, which was well known at the time. In 1990, after graduating from law school from the University of San Francisco, I began working for a small drug discovery company called Pharmetrics. Many of us in general are familiar with what are referred to as skin patches. For example, what they refer to as smoking cessation patches. These are very well known. Our company was one of the pioneers in that regard, had a pretty strong portfolio of smoking cessation patents of various types. In my experience, I've worked with both scientific researchers, in this case, PhD level individuals from companies like Pfizer and Merck, doing drug discovery, working on new chemical entities, etc. One of the things to know about, I would say, the general process that Jaime is very, very familiar with, of course, because he's a prolific inventor, is the long road and how these ideas are collected in the corporation. For example, in one electronics company, we had technical people, the research people staffed in British Columbia. We had an office in Los Angeles and then operated out of Silicon Valley. And with these different technical groups, what would happen is that the attorney staff would go out to these different locations and interview the technical researchers to gather invention disclosures like Jaime talked about. These are basically just new ideas. But the point is, okay, well, many people have ideas, but which ones are useful? One of the funny things about working with technical types is that they'll downplay their inventions, and they'll say, oh, well, that really was not that big a deal. I did that, I came up with that idea 5 minutes ago. And yet what the attorney because I work with teams of attorneys, is that the attorneys would respond and says, but that's imagining a hypothetical, but that's a significant improvement. And it goes beyond what the prior art reveals, the history of technical development in the field. That's the prior art, roughly speaking. And you've met some of the criteria for patentability, which has to be new, novel, brand new, not obvious, that, people in the field would actually say, no, this is a new creation. And frankly, I forgot the third criteria, which Jaime may remember. But there's that process of vetting. And further, in large corporations, especially like the Kimberly-Clark, I just have to imagine that there's probably some internal team, what they call a patent review committee, that collects these different invention disclosures. And this is a team of experts, internal experts, who say, we had 30 invention disclosures, but there's only 2 that merit the corporation funding. And so then they will select those and then farm them out, either internally. Sometimes many times a large corporation have an internal staff. And then on top of that, for special cases, maybe requiring a select expertise, they'll farm it out. So that's just a tiny bit to add. I don't want to go overboard, but this is just for the sake of giving you a tiny bit of visibility and prompting further discussion. So I'll end it right there.
So when you're in this circle of technical types who are working on these projects, are you each saying that you really don't have this sense of feeling the need to recognize for other Latinos in the field and to take them as models for how you do work? Are you just so focused on the work?
I would say that we don't take that in account in some way, if they are Latinos or not. The reality is that you have an innovation, so then you need to see prior art from everywhere in the world to really see that this is an innovation that deserves to be patented.
Yeah.
So,
And let me add to that. I don't mean to cut you off, Jaime, if you need to say more.
no, that's okay.
Pardon me. Yeah, I respond to that. Notice that I was snickering or smiling there. As Jaime would know, within corporate environment and within a Silicon Valley environment, some might say it's kind of harsh. It's very much based on what is it? I don't want to say academic, but a technical and business approach. So the fact of your identity is not significant to the business. It is whether or not you're a talent. So the reason Kimberly Clark is interested in Jaime Braverman is because he's a prolific inventor with the substantial talent, not solely because of his Latino identity. Likewise, even in my case as support staff, they just want to know that I know the patent process and that I can add to that function. So on the one hand, within the technical environment, a corporate environment, it's harsh, but in my view, my opinion is very fair because you really only stand on the basis of what you can contribute and not so much on this softer consideration. I have other thoughts, but I like the progress, so I'll stop there.
Let me just add quickly that there is the other part that patents, they are very strategic. So you need to define what you want to patent, because as soon as you patent, you're disclosing to the world a lot of details. So you need to choose if you want to keep this as a trade secret or you want to really disclose all these details to the world, which sometimes patents can be weak and can be work around them. So,
Yeah.
so no, it's not only if there are innovations, it's also the strategic portion from the company if we want to pursue them or not.
And I have to add, because Karen, I think you introduced this, you asked us about our exposure within the field to other Latinos. For myself, when I was working as electromechanical designer, I was fortunate enough in my design teams where there were other Latinos who were designers like myself. And I often say some of the best ones were Latinos, actually, and they came from many places. One of them I can think of, he was from Chile, Tomas, I can't remember his last name now, but so of course I was mindful of that because other than if you're working in a Spanish-speaking country like Mexico or elsewhere, here in Silicon Valley, I wouldn't see so many. So whenever I did see a Latino, that was remarkable. And then later when I went to law school and I got trained in the patent function there, the obvious question that occurred to me is that, well, I know there's technical people, and I came across patents with Spanish surnamed individuals. I said, well, these people must be scientists or engineers, depending on the technology. And the natural questions that occurred about, well, who are we talking about? How many are we talking about? And that stimulated my own work in developing or pursuing research in the area of, well, who are these Latino and Hispanic inventors? And I'll end on this, is that beyond that, so many people often cite Latinos outside of the U.S., but we have been in America, Latinos and Hispanics, for over 500 years. And right now, over 70% of the U.S. Latino population was born here. So I want to know, and it's not to the exclusion of other Latino scientists and inventors. That's a separate category of research for me. I want to know the American Latino, those who not necessarily just born here, but who identify as an Americans who are contributing to science and technology in the past and now.
Yeah, I see one of the questions we have, you might have reached this, how does your heritage or experience benefit your talent?
I just wanted to say that Hispanics, we are troubleshooters by nature. So it's in our DNA to be innovators. And I can bet you that everybody here in the call can raise their hand and say, every single day I face a problem, but I find a way to fix it. So we are innovating every day. The question is, does this innovation sometimes we might miss it, but could be a real patent in the making? The problem is sometimes we don't have the time, or we don't have even the knowledge that we could patent something.
Exactly. That's actually one of the things I always say to our students as I'm teaching them, and I think it's important for them to know as children, they don't see these images of themselves as adults, as the inventors, and if they have the idea that they just by solving a problem are patent or creating something that could be patented, that's one of the things we try to teach them.
Yes, Karen, that's a good point. It stimulates or prompts another comment, which gets into the broad discussion of how do Latinos enter the field and what are pressures that exist that seem to keep them out. Well, so many Latinos and Hispanics who have come into the United States as migrants, they don't necessarily or haven't necessarily had the history in volume, let's say, so to speak, of coming from professional families. My mother, for example, was a high school graduate. That was her highest academic achievement, and she had 10 kids. Sounds familiar to a lot of Latinos. However, my mother, because we came from Silicon Valley or worked there, my mother was one of the early employees of Fairchild Semiconductor. Some people may recognize Fairchild as a very important company. My sisters also I have 5 sisters, worked in those places. My father, speaking of heritage and the presumptions about who and what you're going to be, my father graduated from high school when he returned from the war after 1995. So his academic status at the time, he graduated from high school after he was a man returning from the war. He received an AA degree in business at the age of 63, and then went on to get a bachelor's degree. So with that in the background, it makes it difficult for many Latinos to see themselves in these professional roles. I remember myself early on as a child, I thought I was so admiring of doctors, but I told myself, oh, I can't do that. That's too high. I can't be a doctor. They're too smart. My brother's, he's not a physician, but he's a dentist. And I no longer hold that belief that that being a physician would be outside of the range of many people. Because many of us now in our adult age know of people who actually come from humble backgrounds who have achieved tremendous success in technical areas. But many of our population, they don't know that. And so, like Karen says, the children, the young people, the youth, they need to be made aware of that, and they need to know the history of Latinos and Hispanics in America to see their place and their contributions that have been made for many years. I can trace it at least as far back technically to 1848.
Awesome. Wanted to look at some more of these questions that are coming in. One of them is, what factors into how you decide between patenting something or making it a trade secret?
I can answer that one. In our case, what we commercialize into the market is very difficult to keep it as a trade secret. because I can take any product from my competitors, I can send it to my analytical lab, and I can get a full report of every single component that they use. How they produce it, that's a challenge. I need to put a lot of imagination of how they are producing it differently than me. So normally, I would say that anything that is a process that nobody has access to, more than the employees of that company, is easier to keep it as a trade secret compared to a product that can be completely disassembled and then analyzed to the least detail.
Yeah, and within my experience of working in the corporate environment from 1993 to 2009, I agree with what, of course, what with Jaime is saying. Also, bear in mind, and many people know this fact, Coca-Cola, my understanding, still the formula still exists as a trade secret. The problem is maintaining secrecy. Trade secret is powerful, but only if you can maintain it, and piercing secrecy barriers. I don't want to say it's easy, but it's a danger that exists. Yeah. And sometimes in the development of different technologies, at least for a time, corporations will hold on to technical ideas because the general notion is that after, I think it's 16 months, there has to be a public disclosure of the core of the invention idea if you intend to patent it. That's part of the transaction that occurs. If you intend to get or seek a patent, then you have to disclose the core idea of the invention, and it will be published in a year and a half time.
Right. And so when the patent is created, it's usually under the company, the employer, but you receive recognition as well because you're listed, your name is listed, right?
Yes.
Yeah, what that gets into is the list of inventors, which these days in a corporate environment can be very, very long list, 20, 30 people in very complex technology. But as Jaime knows, he had to do this. He assigns his inventions from, as an employee to Kimberly Clark. But for many people, or some of the people in our audience, there is the notion that and their desire at times to try to maintain the ownership in its entirety of their own. One problem for that is the cost of patenting. Just answering a particular, what is it? One of the examination steps, it might cost $2,000 just to answer one of 4 or 5 different steps. So you have to have the funds to support the patent. And individual or so-called independent patentees, or inventors rather, often find that a challenge. Another technique they use, and I'll close on this, is often if the inventor can't sell their technology, they may try to license it. Or have an outside party invest in their technology. Those are some of the options.
I want to go back to that about the fees, because then that's interesting in terms of if we're going to encourage people to try to patent ideas, do they have to try to work with a larger company? I know AT&T is going to be trying to do that to assist some of its employees, but people who are not with the company or with a company, is there another way to do this?
Perhaps, but you need to involve lawyers in order to help you to draft the patent. So that is going to cost you money. They
a
have
lot
been,
of money.
Yeah, exactly. But however, there have been examples where we have hired some patent attorneys that will sub-hire people in India to write off those patents to reduce some of the cost of writing the patent. But then, as you mentioned, there is you submit the patent to the patent office. There is a fee there. Then they will send you the reply, the patent office action, and then you need to have a lawyer to help you to draft that answer as well. And then as soon as the patent is granted, then you need to pay it's an annuity to keep the patent alive. If not, the patent will not be active. And the other question you need to ask yourself is in which countries you would like to patent it. Because if you have an innovation, you can say, yes, it's applicable for the US, but if it is good for us, could be good for everybody else. So then you need to define that strategy where else you want to patent, and that's where the cost of patenting really becomes very prohibitive.
And see that Jaime, because he has personal experience in this, you see, for the novices here, the people being educated about the general process, you see how complicated it is, you see how expensive it is. And when you talk about international, you're also talking, let's say you wanted, you have a patent here, you were able to come up with a worthy idea, and you think it has application in Japan. Well, now, I'll exaggerate the cost, but it's possible. You might have a $5,000 to $10,000 cost to get a translation, and then separate fees to file in Japan, and hiring an outside counsel who's proficient at filing Japanese patents. So you see, but to Karen's point, well, how do we do it then? Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. In fact, I myself am in the process of setting up a 501 C3 nonprofit to do just what you described for Latinos. And I intend to work with a host of different patent lawyers, hopefully around the country, but I will start in Silicon Valley. And I have some plans that I don't want to lay out yet, but this gives me the opportunity to say anyone, certainly AT&T is wonderful. I'm interested in collaborating with the AT&T group on Latino inventorship, but I want to encourage people to contact me who want to get future information about patenting, etc. And I hope to collaborate with AT&T post Hispanic Heritage Month.
Awesome. Another question we had was, is there a top category of patents? Do we see more computer programs or physical items being patented?
I think if I can share, I have one of those slides that I pulled from internet that perhaps will answer that question. Let me see. I prepared a couple of them. Where is it? Here. Sorry.
That's very good.
This is 2021, and you can see here where the majority of the patents have been filed. And we can understand that digital communication really is taking a big lead, as well as medical, yes, compared to the others. Give you back the stage.
Jaime, really quick before we, go ahead, Tom.
No, what? Well, okay. Well, yes, I just want to follow up this idea. How is it? Because I work in the university environment, training MBA and graduates and engineers. Most of the engineers that I work with are either in the software field or AI and areas like machine learning. Certainly, to add to Jaime's data, these are top areas, and it's almost obvious as well that the area of medical technology is also increasing because of the existence of the pandemic and what certain researchers forecast for the future and our needs in medical technology and just the development of medical technology in the future. I was recently involved with a group and I gave them a suggestion of targeting a discussion about the application of AI and machine learning to medical devices, which is a huge area. So this speaks to top level areas, like you mentioned, Karen, where there's a lot of patent activity. Also, in the area of software development, it's always been an area that's very difficult and that needed to develop because getting a patent for a software product was very complicated and very, very expensive.
Really quickly, that was a two-part question. So the second half of that question being, how do you know what already has a patent? Or is there a website that is accessible to all of us? Is it the USPTO website? Can you look up specifics on there?
This is, I have to say, this was my function for many years. And for the general public, the simple thing, you could find it very, very quickly, is go to Google Patents. To make use of the United States Patent and Trademark Office database is they're doing a better job at showing people how to use it. In fact, if anybody who visits that, the easiest way is to do what they call quick search. But the absolute easiest for people who are not familiar with patent searching is to go to Google Patents. That's something that's not too difficult to figure out. If people want, they could also contact me and I can help people with those kind of patent searches. I'd be willing to do that. That's beneficial to me as well.
Awesome, thank you.
We have this question for Tom, but actually for both of you, if you'd like to talk about some of the most important things you'd like to share from your research, what would they be?
In my case, again, I've been working on absorbency and absorbent products, so hygienic products for that many years. So a lot of the research that I have been able to patent has been how to improve the absorbency of products, and how again the other part is how to repel some of the fluids depending on the position of where those materials are located. And there is another other part of my research that was also on the healthcare side. Is I have a patent that talks about if we can put in discrete areas different components that can provide some skin wellness to different products. So that's an area that is growing very rapidly as well.
This is so interesting. I like that little discussion right there where you stimulate the idea. I never thought of that, Jaime. Oh, I don't know, I'm playing with the idea.
Yeah.
Oh, putting lotions, embedding lotions in diapers, because mamas know babies get chafed and they get these ugly, red rashes and so on. So that's an interesting idea. And Jaime's got to be careful, right? Because he's talking about things in the open about invention ideas.
No, but these are the ones that they have been patented. And for example, I commercialize in Latin America and Mexico. We have the diapers who have aloe vera and vitamin E.
Oh, there you go. See, that's another example though. See, notice what I did right there is that I assumed that this hadn't already been known. And this is a classic example of what novice inventors, the mistake they made. They think, oh, this is the greatest idea since whatever, whatever. And it says, nobody's got this idea. This is my idea. 10 people have that idea. In fact, it's already patented.
Yeah.
This happens so often in the field, it's almost comical. You have to be, from a corporate standpoint, you have to be very careful, and you have to be careful, as the question was raised previously. How do you know what was already out there? This is why you do, and this gets very complicated because some patent lawyers, they don't want you to be doing patent searches. There's legal reasons for that. And others, though, I would say for the novice and the new inventor, you do want to do patent searches because you don't want to waste all your money trying to chase pipe dreams, But Jaime was talking about some of the most important things, because I don't know about our time, is that one of the things that I'm very interested in doing is to have the public understand based, frankly, on my own research, where I've uncovered 15,000 American Latino patents from 1848 to the present. As an example, pre-1900, I have almost over 100 patents that I've identified in the let's see, 19th century. So all through the 1800s, there's a list of leading patents or outstanding patents, also in the 20th and 21st centuries. That said, probably the one that I'm most proud of, and I haven't found anything that historically that trumps this, is a patent that was received by Belén Quesada, who happened to be the daughter of a Costa Rican millionaire, but she's an American citizen. Her family moved to the United States and Washington in 1900s, and then she came to the Silicon Valley. Her family lived in San Jose. She received a patent, the only patent ever given to a woman airplane inventor in the whole history of the United States. She received a patent in December 1912 for a flying machine in San Jose, California, the technology headquarters of the world. That's one of those things that I'd like Latinos to know about their history in America from a science and technology standpoint.
That's amazing, the amount of research you've done and history on it. One of the things I enjoyed about looking into this subject was just reading through old patents. It's wonky, I guess, but it's really interesting and exciting to realize what people have thought of, and then what they've been able to achieve from what they thought of.
Karen, you prompt another thing, which gets into the difficulty in doing this research. Notice, one, as Karen has worked in this field, we have a combination of Afro-Latinos who also, there's a very strong possibility, or a possibility certainly, that some of these individuals might have been inventors from the Caribbean or elsewhere. And it gets also to the problem of how Jaime, I joked with Jaime about this, is that, see, the method I was forced in a sense to use was to focus on Spanish surnamed individuals. But what about people even like myself? Many Latinos don't realize that my name is of Spanish origin. All my grandparents are from the state of Guanajuato. One from my grandfather from Abasolo, and my mother's from Silao. And so people don't know that. And then what about the females who one of the most important, or one of the examples I was given, going to give today, was for a patent issued in 2022, April, to Sarah Gonzalez Blom. And the obvious being that these are mixed identity. The Sarah Gonzalez married some gentleman named Blom, B-L-O-H-M. And so, well, is that a Latina? Well, Latinos, Latinas self-identify. So, and some don't. So see, you see the difficulty. And then there's some, I actually came across in the very 1800s, some females who had Spanish names, but actually they were not Spanish. It was a Spaniard or another Latino who married a non-Spanish origin person, and I had to figure out how to separate that. So uncovering, and last is that this gets to an important modern issue. There is legislation pending or talked about where we would, the country would identify the ethnic identity of individuals. And for African Americans, who I studied fairly extensively to do my own work, and they were the leaders for me in figuring out how to study Latino inventorship, incredible challenges. How do you identify, in their case, of African Americans? How do you know? Like Jaime said, it doesn't say on the patent. You know, there was one case, there's actually one case where an African American in the what do they call it, the Patent Gazette, which is a newsletter of all the patents that issue every year, where he was identified. I forget. I think they called him a Negro, and that's the only time in the history of United States patenting that anyone was ever identified in terms of their racial identity. We could go on and on and on. That's a very long subject. But these are some of the challenges to Latinos, Latinas, African Americans, Afro-Latinos being recognized for their contributions to science and technology in America.
But there are organizations today that that people could join if they wanted to just learn about past patents, or even a group where there are other people like them who are working on things, right?
Well, let me say, how should I say this politely? There's no one working on, well, there are, there's not too many, to put it more politely, working on the history of, I'll use my term, American Latino invention. That's why I won a Lemelson Award. In fact, in my proposal, I said something to the effect, there is no existing readily available chronicling of America, the contributions of the American Latino to science and technology in the United States. There is none. And what my hosts at the Lemelson Center, which is part of the Smithsonian Institute, what they're backing me to do is to write the book of the same type that was already written by Howard Baker, a patent examiner from the 1800s, where he was the first person to chronicle the participation of African Americans in as inventors. And then this is a book that reads, pardon me for this, The Inventive Spirit of African Americans. My host gave reference this book to me, written by an African American examiner modernly, as a model for me to follow in writing a book about Latino inventorship in America. So something does not yet exist.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, believe me.
All right.
We have time for about one more question, and I'm so sad because I feel like we're just getting into so many other like tangents of important conversations. But there's one question in the chat that was asked about 20 minutes ago that I want to make sure we touch on. So Jaime and Tom and Gordon, if you also want to speak to this, in your experience, do you see a big difference between Latino versus non-Latino innovators, and why? And then he continues to say, I think some of the most innovative people are Latinos, but very few execute on ideas and innovations.
And I think due to our background, especially the people who has been, who moved from another country to the US, we are wired so differently. And I see that every single day at work. Is that whenever they put us a challenge, our brain immediately works, perhaps in the shortcut, I'm going to fix this. Whenever, let's say, my peer team will be like, let's do a big analysis. Let's take a whole week to make this analysis. And perhaps they will come to a better solution, but we are troubleshooters, as I mentioned before. Yeah, so for sure, our Latino heritage impacts a lot on the way that we solve issues and how we see, things going. And especially, I always compare if you see football versus soccer. No, football, you see the players, they need to be thinking about what is the next move. It's a very slow game, very interesting one. But football, soccer is let's go next. Let's do the next one. Okay, we don't have really a lot of time to make a decision. The decision needs to be made on the second. So that's the way that we operate in some way.
Yeah.
I find that, Jaime, very interesting comment, and I will acknowledge as well, there's this very big difference between educated Latinos who come into America, and this is kind of a sad thing. I'll say that the educated Latinos coming into America, they don't have as much holding them back. Like Jaime seems to say, they're ready to go. And they they contribute, they're educated, they jump right in. The so-called American Latino that I'm identifying, I'm not glorifying it, I'm categorizing it as being in a category of need to advance and to see yourselves as Jaime mentions, as inventors, as troubleshooters, as contributors, because, oh no, I can't do that. Nobody I know does that. Nobody I know, nobody I know does those. I can't do that. I can't be a doctor. I can't be a mathematician. I cannot be an engineer. Fortunately, like Jaime has also mentioned, organizations such as SHIP, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and SACNAS, which focuses also on Chicano Hispanic advancement. They're promoting, and they have thousands of members who are engineers now. But the question was, well, why don't we see the representation? Some of it is that our young population doesn't see themselves in these positions for a lack of representation and models. A second thing which has been talked about is that although there's organizations such as SHIP and SACNAS, those did not exist in the past. I'm currently on a hunt to find anything before 1945 and even anything after 1945. 1945, when was the first Hispanic Inventors Organization established? What, 1970? 1980? So how can you expect? And then why don't the existing, because I've said there have been Latino engineers, scientists, etc., for many years. Why don't they exist? One, in my view of things, and it's a bit strong, is very strong pressures to assimilate and to acculturate. Goes with the idea of don't speak Spanish. You know, in the past, that was not an advantage. Now it's an advantage, but historically, not an advantage. In fact, you could get sanctions for that. And two, the organizations did not exist. And three, once again, pressures to acculturate and assimilate, I think, tend to work against the Latinos to see themselves as having common bonds, working as professionals in these different fields. So that's another way of saying it's something we should be doing more of. That's it.
Excellent. Well, I see. I actually didn't realize we're nearing the end, but I am looking forward to your book, Tom. It's exciting.
Hey, I'm looking for sponsors. I luckily I've got these different grants I'm looking at. I have a couple deadlines. One of them is November 1st. We'll see. It's very challenging. I was very lucky to get the Lemelson Award, but I need a couple more.
We'll all be on the lookout, and we'll contact you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen.
And then, oh, go ahead, Karen. What were you saying? Sorry, I didn't realize.
No, I was just saying, Jaime, I'm very proud of you as well and your patents.
Thank you.
Exciting. I really appreciated being part of this.
Yeah, thank you to the three of you for joining us for the first part of our four-part series. This has been such amazing conversation, and I'm so grateful that we get to record it and engage with the three of you on this. We'll be sending that out internally to our Hacemos members, so for all those that didn't make it today, we can send that out for them to watch. And then there will be a survey going out to all of you folks who attended live. So be free or feel free to fill that out for us. And then we also have the next few parts of our events coming up. So let me go ahead and share that with you all. Let's share screen. So this was week one where we have Avanzando and Inventando. That's what we just recorded now. And then we have weeks 2, 3, and 4 coming up. We have multiple events scheduled. So those are all on the hacemos.org website. So feel free to go ahead and look that up and join us for those coming up. This has been kind of the step one into our awareness of patents and what it means to be inventing them and have conversations with those who are very familiar with patents and specifically Latinos' contributions in that area. Um, so do Tom, Jaime, Karen, do you have any other closing remarks that you want to share with everyone?
If I can share quickly my last slide on this,
Yes, of
perhaps
course.
that will illustrate a lot of other things. If
Mhm.
sorry.
That's okay.
Hmm, hmm. So first of all, we talk about patents, but you haven't probably seen, how some of the drawings on a patent looks like.
Mhm.
And you can see here that in order to have a patent, you need to really describe every single item to the fullest detail as you can. And you can see here examples of Lego, something that you can put your dog to wear. But
Mhm.
also, this is something that a patent attorney here in Kimberly-Clark showed me once. I was mesmerized to see that Michael Jackson actually patented his mechanism in order to create this dance move. So I was more used to see that kind of diagrams where we're patenting something on diapers, but it's interesting to see something in that respect. And lastly, if you are into theme parks, even Universal, who is going to open a new theme park, they are patenting a new way they're going to be doing a roller coaster. So
Mhm.
again, innovations can happen anywhere. There are still a lot of opportunities to be able to innovate, and it's just a matter of you know uh, educate yourself more about the patent,
Mhm.
the procedure, and again, perhaps Tom can be one of the resources that can help you to bring those patents alive.
Thank you, Jaime.
Thank you, the three of you, for your time. Tom, do you want to close us out with anything else?
Well, the only thing is I want to extend again an invitation for people to contact me. I do intend to be heavily involved in Hispanic Latino inventorship in the future, as well as trying to write my book. And so I would welcome people communicating with me by email. That would be my closing remark.
Perfect. So I guess I will go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you to the three of you for your time, and thank you to everyone in the audience who joined and asked such wonderful questions. So we will see you all hopefully at our next events, and have a happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Goodbye.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.